Hello.
Hello. Hey.
Peace, peace, peace.
Oh, boy, it's good to see you.
Yes, likewise. How are you?
I'm doing very fine.
Excellent. We do have a bit
Hello
of,
there.
oh, there it is. I was
Uh,
saying your connection is a little bit delayed, but let's see.
okay. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yes, a little bit better.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Yeah, sorry for logging in late. I was caught up with work at the studio. I have a show coming up in November.
Oh,
So
lovely.
yeah, so it's a whole lot of work I'm trying to finish at the studio.
Well,
Wow.
congratulations.
Thank
That's so
you.
exciting.
Thank
So we started this podcast and we've just been going around interviewing artists from all over the world. So we're
you.
absolutely honored to have you on the show today. And we
Thank
would
you.
love to ask you some questions about your work.
Okay, great. No problem. I'm
Okay,
all yours.
wonderful. If for recording purposes, can you state your first and last name or whatever name you want us to use to introduce you as an artist?
My name is Collins Abinuro. The Collins is my first name. Last name is Abinuro.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your artist journey.
Okay. Well, I'm traditionally from Delta States, Nigeria, the southern part of Delta States. I grew up in my local community in a rural environment, where we had a lot of more traditional settings, growing up as a person. And I've had great influence from those in my journey as an artist. And I basically started out, discover myself very early as a young child from the primary school level. Suddenly realizing that I could do drawings and create things. I was very, very handy. I make sculptures out of what we used to traditionally call red sand, but now I know better. It's actually called clay. You know, and had early pressures actually against studying art or specializing in art because of the settings that I grew up in. My state is an oil-rich state. So basically, the average parents want their children to probably go into engineering. So
Mm.
you could end up in the oil and gas, you know. But here you have a young child or a young boy who wants to go into art, where in terms of career wise, there were really no visible prospects, as far as I'm concerned, within my environment for my parents. So to them, it wasn't like a very secured career to venture into, for a young boy such as I was at that time. But I wasn't really looking at prospects, at that age. It was
Mm.
more about curiosity.
Mm,
It was more about raw passion and love for the abilities that I had, you know, and just being able to communicate through what I was able to do at that time. So I actually unconsciously noticed that I started at that time to use my art as a form of protest against my father,
Mm.
because I would literally, draw and make scribbles on the walls of our house, in and outside, you know, and that will often piss him off, because he comes back from work and he's seeing paintings all over outside the house and inside, and I'll copy pictures from the photographs we have at home, and even make drawings on my notebooks, because I didn't have drawing books to draw on.
Mm.
So the only books that I had to draw on were my notebooks and my textbooks. And this will often piss him off, more like I was wasting all the materials or destroyed everything around. But I was just a curious boy at that time. But good enough, I basically had a teacher uh, at my secondary school level who sort of had a talk with me because he noticed the struggle I was going through, and the pressure was so hard at some point that I started actually reconsidering the choice I was going to do. I was going to have as a career. Maybe I should probably just settle down, and do law if that would please my father and take me away from the whole pressure and all that. But he told me something that still drives me till now. That first, my father is generation, it's a generation ahead of me,
Mm.
which means that he's not going to be there for me forever, and I have my own life to live. So if I start out now pleasing him, will I continue to please him all my life? So he actually pushed me to stick to what I want as long as I'm very sure of my decision. So that kind of gave me courage and more confidence to just keep doing what I was doing. And through all the struggles, I was able to get into school to study arts, you know, and make certain decisions on the kind of school to go and what to expect as well. So my journey basically started from those very rough beginnings and getting into school. And from school, studying arts, I was exposed to even more broader possibilities of what I could do with art.
Mm.
That it beyond just being able to copy pictures, you know, but that basically art is actually a tool for me. It's a tool for me to achieve or to become whatever I want to become.
Mm.
It's not just the ability to copy images, but
Mhm.
what you're able to communicate with these abilities is the most important thing. So I started building on myself, reading a lot of materials, studying very, very. I'm hard on myself. I'm still very tough on myself. I multitask myself. I will push myself to whatever extent I think sometimes beyond my physical body would carry, just so I'm able to achieve certain things, and graduated 2012 from art school, and I've practiced as a full-time studio artist till date, and was still growing, was still on the journey. Yeah, so maybe I'll stop right there for now.
Now, are your parents do your parents appreciate the fact that you're so driven within your art, and do they accept it more that you're artist now instead of like a lawyer or engineer?
Everybody in my family is everybody's excited, everybody's happy for me,
Nice.
because I've been able to achieve beyond anybody's expectations. They never realized that I could be so much more. You know, but
Mm.
now I think I'm so much more than I personally even anticipated for myself. So everybody around me is excited for me. It's been prayers and more blessings. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Phil and I both went to school for art. But my question to you is, what was that experience like for you studying art in Nigeria? And what is that process? Were you more focused on skill, or was it a opportunity for you to study anything that you wanted? Just take us on that journey as far as your educational artistic practice goes.
Okay. So consciously now, I think when I look back at my journey, what drove me to school was skill. Because I just wanted an opportunity to be able to fine tune the abilities that I had, you know. But then, because I'm also one very extremely curious person who wants to study anything or understand everything that happens around me, you
Mm.
know, my encounter when I got to school, I first of all concentrated actually on developing my skill. That was the first focus for me. And it wasn't until I think towards my last 2 years in school that I actually started focusing a lot more on other possibilities for me,
Hmm.
you know. And then I realized that if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to embark on this journey as an artist, it should be more than just the ability to create, It should be about what I'm creating, the stories I'm able to tell, the changes I'm able to make, So I had to actually literally started reading, and these actually continued throughout my last few remaining years in school, and also when I started practicing outrightly, because Lagos is one very complex state where the competition for art is crazy, because
Hmm.
you have a lot of very skillful artists here, fantastic artists here. So for you to be able to make an impact, you just have to look for something differently to bring to the table. that would draw the attention of people. So I realized also that I had to work on a lot more things beyond just the skill and just the decision also to practice art. Now I'm still presently focused on my narratives, beyond just the skill. I'm still fine-tuning. I'm still trying to understand a bit more. I wasn't so self-conscious even in my early days when I started practicing, until I think about 2 years ago. I started becoming self-aware, self-conscious. It's at some point in your life, you are chasing after certain things, which maybe you realize that actually really the main things you should be chasing after, and then you suddenly realize that you are supposed to be a part of a system, and being a part of the system, you're also supposed to be able to decide where you want to belong as part of the system. You want to be part of those who just want to, more like spectators, or you want to be part of those who are actually being able to make certain changes or make certain impact. You understand? So realizing that, and also realizing also that the biggest and strongest tool I had was art, had to make me also start to embark on certain kind of different journeys as well as spirituality, so that I can become more self-conscious. I can become more aware of who I am and what I'm actually here to do, with the gifts that I have. Because the gifts shouldn't, for me, I think the gift shouldn't be the major focus. The gift is a tool. What I have is a tool. So the priority shouldn't be just developing the tool. The priority should be what you're going to do with the tool. So that's still the process I'm undergoing, still trying to develop, still trying to understand a bit much more and seeing how far I can go. Yeah, so but for the art schools in Nigeria, at this stage, there still seems to be a lot more focus on skill, especially if you're going through the polytechnic. We have two different kind of high institution here. You have the polytechnic, we should call a higher national diploma or national. A lot more concentration on skill and abilities. So, and I intentionally chose to go into the polytechnic because it helped me develop my skill more. Because for me, art is visual. It's more visual. So if it's more visual for me, I should be able to develop that part of me, than why I grow with any other thing. So a lot of people go through the polytechnic more, why for the university students, it's a mix of both. It's more of 50-50 of both. And by the end of the day, it's still about what you're able to do with what you have. Okay. Yeah, it's still more personal than just the institution.
We know that art is one of the oldest forms of communication in humanity. What are you trying to communicate with your art on certain pieces?
For me, I have become, or I'm still learning more. When I create, I rely more absolutely on my spiritual strength than on my physical strength. Because there was a time where I had more focus on my physical strength, which was the ability that I mentioned earlier. But at this phase of my practice, I am consciously depending more on my spiritual strength. The ability to actually literally have certain images projected to me first before I create. So right now, I just don't wake up and create because I saw a beautiful picture. What happens to me now is I often wake up with projected images in my mind, and sometimes they are physical to me, and it happens on almost on daily basis, when I'm working or in my regular life. Certain images have to be projected first. I have to see it for me to create it. Now, when I see such images or such projection, I first often would try to understand why it's given to me. Why do I have this sort of projection? and what's the content of it. Initially, at very early stages, it was difficult for me to actually understand it. I felt indifferent. I started feeling indifferent at certain points because there is a way people look at you when you tell certain personal encounters, as Africans, and let's say they tell you maybe you're possessed or something, you know. But when I realized that it is a journey for me and it's a special gift, and I read a book, The Artist Way, that helped me find a way to be able to put down and document some of the images or projections that I'm constantly having. So what I do a lot of times is when I have such images, I would often write down. I write down a lot of them and make drawings as based on what I have seen. Most of the time they are caricatures. And then I start looking for models and subjects that would best refine them into giving more stronger visual representation. And still on that spirituality and depending on what is projected to me, what is given to me at the initial stage, it's actually not a total package yet. While I'm still in my creative process, translating these writings or these drawings into visual, stronger forms, I'm spiritually very open-minded. So in between, I'm open to still receive more information on what to put and what to take out. And it's difficult for me sometimes, but as I'm growing, I'm maturing, I'm understanding better. So when I had my first solo show last year, it was more like the height of one of the most creative experience I've had the whole of 2018 and 2019, because I kept on having these experiences. I kept on trying to interpret them as much as I could, So the result was creating and exhibiting certain works last year and having these same exhibits playing out in 2020. Most of them are playing out currently. We have the piece that has to do with coronavirus, which is a cosmic man. And we have pieces that dealt with mental slavery and the issues of personality that the Africans are going through, which is currently still playing out in Nigeria, with people suddenly realizing quickly that the power to change anything is in them. So if they're able to conquer their mental state, they are able to take over the entire system. So now I'm more excited. I'm deeply more excited in my spirit every day, and being more open and trusting my spiritual force or my guardian more, because now to me, whatever is given to me, I trust it. I believe it. I don't doubt it. I just go ahead and create, because I know it's either going to be something that we'll deal with today or something that will play out in the future. Yeah.
Okay.
So you are a multidisciplinary artist, but what led you on the journey of using cutlery for your sculptures? Please elaborate more on that experience and how you came about to even coming up with that idea.
Okay. That came up. I made my first cutlery piece in 2012. That was my last year in school. But what I noticed was in 2011, when I resumed, because usually for diploma programs, you do 2 years program, you go on 6 months or 1 year internship program, then you resume for 2 more years. So for my 1 year break that I had, I actually chose not to be assigned to any organization or institution. I chose actually to be independent with that 1 year, because I had to do self discoveries and make decisions about my future at those times. So when I resumed the last 2 years of the program, I kind of resumed school with a very different kind of mindset completely, and my mind were open to a whole lot of things. So when I resumed as someone who is going on adventure, to make discoveries. you know, and I'll often have conversations with my classmates in school and tell them stuff that I would want to do, you know, how I want the entire process to be like for me, and even would tell stories about life after school and things that I want to achieve, you know. So when we were assigned to do certain research projects on material explorations, trying to discover new mediums in practice in sculpture, you know, against the conventional mediums that were used to clay, stone, fiber, bronze, and the rest of them, conventional metal sculptures. They wanted us to explore different materials that have not been either not been ever explored before, or not been, or exploring the same mediums in a way different from what anybody has ever experienced. You know, so we had to go into certain practices. First, the focus more was on junk materials, you know, where we literally will go around and pick junks. Sometimes go to junkyards, either pick or you buy, you know, and we developed this sort of practice in class. Every one of us used to do that, where periodically we will put all of our junk materials on the ground. We will pour them all on the ground, all scattered on the floor, and we will literally stare at them.
Mm.
You know, we will stare at them. And what we believe is that within these materials are embodied forms, you know. So by merely staring at them, we believe that they will give back to you the form that you need to create with them, you know. And it worked tremendously for every one of us. It worked tremendously because we have people that are that were in my class, you know, that came up with really, really crazy ideas. I had a lot of my classmates who will work, some of them works with tire, bolts and nuts. I work with cutleries and a whole lot of very crazy materials, you know. So for me, in the course of one of those exercises, you know, my mind was literally open to the likeness of the handles of the spoons that was part of the junk material that I had, looking very alike the feathers of birds, you know. And that was the point that I was like, okay, this is so much like this, you know. So I picked up the few that I had and started developing an armature and deciding what kind of bird I should work on. And I picked the cockerel because it was faster for me to create at that time. And the result was a very small miniature piece made with about 120 something pieces of cutleries. But the result was crazy. You know, everybody around me fell in love with the piece. My lecturers fell in love with it. Everybody around fell in love with it. And that was the first that I had. But the truth is, I didn't see the bigger picture of how far I could go, you know, because here before me, I had other materials that I was able to also handle. I could work with and create really magnificent stuff with, you know. But when I was done with school, the first 1 year I had, I had no choice. When I looked at the options that I had, what kept coming to me was the cutlery. I had a lot of materials. I was exploring a lot of materials, but what kept coming to me to work with was the cutlery, you know. So I had to keep working on it. And the more I worked with it, the stronger I was being drawn to it. You know, like it's like a door that is open before me. When I open this door, another one is opening before me. So it's more like you open one, you're introduced to another one, and you keep opening more doors. And it's been one of the biggest experiences that I've had in my life, because now beyond just birds that I started out with, I can literally create anything. I can literally tell any story, you know, or any experience. I can interpret anything with it, you know. So though I had early criticism, you know, when I started trying to access the art market here in Lagos, because some persons believed that the medium is limited, that I might not be able to exceed just creating birds. You know? But I believe it's still the same. Life is a journey. What we do now is how much we are given, you know, which means that there's still so much more to be given, which will determine how much more we're able to achieve. So why worry about what is ahead when you have a whole lot to do with what you're giving presently? So I'm more focused to what I'm giving every day, because currently it's opening more doors. So what much more I can do.
Mm. Now, when you create your pieces, you have an idea. Do you sketch the idea out first on paper and then create, or do you just go hands-on and see how you can mold uh, your
Okay.
creation with the cutlery?
Okay. Initially, I basically don't sketch out my ideas before now.
Mm.
I store the informations in my mind.
Mm.
I'm very pictorial. Like, a lot of things happens inside my mind. Beyond, I'm calm on the outward.
Mm.
But I'm very complex on the inside. I'm like the two kind of person. Outward I'm different, but what happens on my inside is different. So I used to store a lot of images in my mind, but one I realized that it was having a lot of effects on me as a person, because I noticed that I was highly distracted a lot of time. I could be with people, and I'm not there actually.
Mm.
you know I'm focused on what's happening on my inside. So I was having challenges with that. And then I also realized that if I continue like that, I might not be able to have records or certain of the ideas that I have over the course of time.
Mm.
Because I think as artists we have much more ideas than we can actually create in a lifetime. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, so because we have much more ideas, if I don't document or sketch them out or write them, if I don't have the opportunity to actually draw them out, uh, the future or the generation ahead might not be able to tell some of the stories that I have on my inside that I'm unable to translate into a more tangible art.
Mm.
So now I've cultivated the culture of literally sketching out first. Once it comes, whether I'm going to create now or not, I'm just going to sketch out first, and sometimes take notes beside all of my sketches. Yeah.
Mm.
Do you keep track of the pieces that you've already completed? How many pieces do you have of the sculptures? Do you know?
I'm not sure I have, I can keep track. I'm trying to. The only way I can do that now is go through the pictures, because I take pictures. I make
Mm.
photograph of most of my processes, and stages. So if I have to actually want to take records, I might have to go through all of the pictures. But I'm sure as time progresses, I will need to do that, so I have proper documentation of most of the works that
Mm.
I've been able to create. Yeah.
Um, so it seems, which do you prefer? Do you prefer more two-dimensional art or the three-dimensional art and sculptures?
Uh, I love two-dimensional art, because I think initially I was more trained as a lot of people look at my drawing. If you've never seen my sculptures, if you see my drawings, you might actually think I'm a painter.
Mm.
A lot of people think I'm a painter before they experience my sculptures. Because I was actually first trained. The guy that mentored me, if final year student that mentored me when I got into school, initially he's a painter. So he basically mentored me as a painter.
Mm.
So most of the time when I draw, my drawings are more paintalic than sculptures.
Mm.
Except for now that I'm trying to find a way to mix them all up. But I think I have more tendencies and more strength and passion for three-dimensional arts, because two-dimensional for me is an illusion of what is,
Mm.
or sometimes most of the time what is not,
Mm-hmm.
because you actually can't feel it.
Mm.
It's represented by light and shade, the light and dark, and just on a flat surface. So it's just an illusion. But sculptures brings to life what actually is in my mind.
Mm.
So when I create my sculptures, it's not an illusion. You can feel it, you can touch it, you can move around it. You can actually be immersed in the soul that is hidden within it.
Mm.
So I I have stronger passion, and cravings to want to create or interpret sculptures, my works in sculptures than in painting.
Mm.
I still draw a lot. I have a lot of drawings at home and paintings at home that the public have never seen. You know, but those I do now more when I'm trying to take a break off from the sculpture studio. But for art for me, I think I'm obsessed with creating art.
Mm.
That for from the moment that I've stepped into school till date, I don't think I've thought of anything else outside art.
Mm.
Nothing
Mm.
else. I till date, and I don't think it's ever going to change. So I live my 24 hours thinking and living art. It's the only thing that it's the only experience that I have. So even if I'm watching a certain sport, it still has to, it still comes back to art at the end of the day. When I
Mm.
have daily conversations with people, it still finds unconsciously finds a way to connect to art. So I spend my 24 hours living art. You understand? So um, sculpture is stronger for me because I literally brings my ideas to life than just mere illusion.
Mm.
Where was the first place outside of Nigeria that you exhibited your work?
Okay, that's in Abu Dhabi, UAE, 2014, and where I was invited, via a concert that I had on Facebook. As a matter of fact, I actually don't know her. I didn't know her till that time, but
Mm.
she had followed my works over time from when I was in school. And at that time, I just rounded up my national youth service. So she sent me this certain DM one certain day. I love your paintings. She didn't know I was a sculptor actually. I create sculptures. She loves my drawings and paintings. So she sent me this DM if I'll be interested in doing a residency. And I've actually never traveled out of Nigeria before.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, that would be great. But then I was skeptical because I wasn't sure if it was real or it was a scam because a lot of things happened
On
on
Facebook, yes. You never know.
yeah, so I had my doubts. I never actually had my international passport till that time. Well, so when I told her yes, I would love to, I told a friend, and I was like, but I'm having doubts. I'm not sure if she's real or not. You know, but she sent me more messages. She kept sending more messages and wanted to know more about me. And I think about 2 weeks after, she asked if I could send my passport. I never had any,
Mm.
so I had to start processing, and I was able to get my passport, sent the documents, and not long after, less than a month, I have my visa and passport. I mean, and travel ticket ready.
Mm.
So that was like my first travel experience, and lucky for me, it was an all expense paid trip. So I actually literally didn't have to worry about how to get fund and all of that.
Lovely.
So
Nice, nice.
yeah, yeah. So that was my first international travel ever, and my first exhibition as well, which actually led to me staying for 2 extra months against 1 month that I was supposed to stay.
Mm.
Because I touched down, I started working, and they discovered that this guy is beyond just what we saw at first. This guy is a lot, So let's exploit him. you know. So they wanted me to stay longer than even I stayed, but I was tired of staying. I needed to get back and do a lot more serious things here.
Right.
So that was my first trip ever.
Any
Yeah,
other trips outside of that, in addition
yeah,
to that?
I've also been to Saudi.
Mm.
Because I've noticed for some time now that the Middle East seems to have programs that are trying to bring a lot of artists to their countries and do a lot of stuff. So they basically will provide all the funds you need, including your
Mm.
ticket and your visas and all that. So you have nothing to
Mm.
worry about actually. And yeah, inviting a lot of artists because for these two trips that I've had made to the Middle East, you know, it's always all expense paid.
Mm.
you know,
Wow.
and they will have, for the last one, we had about 47 or so international artists,
Mm.
hosted in one facility, everybody paid for, and whatever kind of material you need is provided for.
Wow.
And if they can't find it in the country, they will go as far as import it for you, as
Wow.
long as you have whatever you want to create. So and it's a huge experience. So I noticed the Middle East they're constantly doing these programs, and I think they're also trying to open up their world, also their countries to the world completely, so they can have more people visiting. I think everybody's trying to diversify, maybe except for Africa anyway. But all over the world, everybody's trying to diversify, but Africa is still kind of still struggling to find their roots, kind of all trying to, So those are the two trips that I've had. But I've also had my work exhibited in the US, Mississippi, 2018, and my work has been exhibited in London as well.
Amazing.
Yeah. But if not for the lockdown, I was supposed to be in London early this year, but Corona happened.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
What is your goal as a Nigerian multidisciplinary artist?
That's deep, though. Yeah, that's deep, because I think it's hard to live in Nigeria. It's hard to live in Africa, and to be first to be an African and to live in Africa and not think Africa or Nigeria, because of our experiences, our day-to-day experiences, And I had an interview a couple of days ago, and I told the interviewer that I think it's I don't know how some artists do it, but I think it's difficult for me to create my art without having the Nigerian influence on it, and that no matter how rich and comfortable you've been able to accrue for yourself, you are affected by the issues that is affecting everyone. So for example, as a Nigerian that is dealing with a lot of power issues, for example, when you leave your house, even if you're able to provide electricity for yourself, you leave your house and you have business to deal with somewhere, you get there, and one of the biggest, you could be at the airport and the power will go off, Yeah, so, and you could be at the bank and power will literally go off at the bank. And it might take like a couple more minutes for them to get power on, and you're trying as a Nigerian to be as calm and be reserved as much as you can. But then you have the political issues that are, strangling everyone, the height of corruption that is strangling everyone, because it's the reason why things don't work as they should be. We don't have organized system, and not like we don't have what it takes to have an organized system, because we have more individuals that are more interested in personal acquisitions or acquiring more personal things than fixing the problem that is facing everyone, and then you embezzle all of this fund, and you take this fund and take them outside the shores of Africa and spend them elsewhere, and you have the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris, and all of these crazy cars, and you can't even drive them on your streets because the road to your house is terrible. And I don't know how people think that you could get this car to your house and you can conveniently drive it, because you can't, the road on your street is bad. The drainage system are horrible. You're well dressed, looking polished, and you're driving and you're smelling so much bad odor from the environment because the drainage system are all messed up. And nobody's worried about it. And you have multiple experiences of accident happening on the streets. Not literally because drivers are very careless, but because you have more potholes on the roads than the vehicles on the roads, actually. So it's difficult to live in Nigeria without being concerned about the challenges. And uh, my biggest goal as an African creative, is seeing how I can use my art as a tool to, impacting certain changes. Because I think the biggest uh, form or way we can create certain changes is ideologies, selling ideologies that we believe should be, you know, if you will physically try to go out there to fight the system, you might never actually get anywhere, because these guys are like hardened demons. They made up a mind to ruin the entire system, and they are going to get at it, even if it means killing everybody, you know. But when we sell ideologies and keep trying to have conversations, and keep trying to have more discussions, one-on-one, especially one-on-one discussion with people that are less awoke, it will keep, people will keep getting keep trying to get more informed. People will know their rights, people will know how government runs, people will know why they shouldn't actually accept certain kind of things from the system, and people will learn actually to stand up for their rights. Because there was this time in Nigeria where if you tell people that we should have better power supply, they will tell you that it's not possible. And I actually never thought it's possible until I traveled out of Nigeria, and I lived in a facility for 2 months, and the power never went out once, not even blink for like a second, And as a Nigerian coming from Nigeria who has never actually had experiences of constant power supply, it started feeling weird in my mind. Like, how would there just be power? Like, can't this thing just go off for a second? And then I got back and I kept telling people these things are possible. It's happening everywhere. A lot of people have constant power supply and we can make this happen. And they keep telling you it's not possible. It's not going to work. We've driven for crazy kilometers in Saudi, a journey where you might have to drive like 5 kilometers to be able to see one building, and all the roads are beautifully well made, where people do not live, empty deserts. People don't live there. And they have these crazy, beautiful roads, And then back home, you have residence environment where people are living. People have been living all their lives, and they don't have access to such kind of roads. But then we have even much more, natural resources than these other people have, But we have less to show for it.
Definitely.
So yeah, my biggest dream, my biggest goal that I'll feel very fulfilled, when I get old and I'm passing the mantle to someone else, is being able to see certain changes being made positively. I'm personally excited about certain things that are currently happening in Nigeria for the past 1 week. The riots by people, the protests of young people coming out to say we're done with this thing, like we need certain things to change. It's like something that a lot of people never saw was possible, because the last time this ever happened was in the 80s, where people actually stood up to government. From that time till now, people are scared, because there's more martial laws in Nigeria than that anybody ever wants to experience. Like, if you speak up, the next thing you're going to get is threats from the government or from certain people who just believe you shouldn't speak up. And even people are still getting threat messages and calls everywhere. But it's more like the young people are snapping up, like you're done. So I think it's beginning to happen gradually. We won't achieve it now because we're still not mature yet. But it's a slight opening, it's a slight opening in time, to let us know that we can actually do it. The power belongs to us. But I look forward to creating more kind of art that would relate and have more conversations, that will help educate people and wake people up from their sleep. I think everybody in Africa are literally sleeping.
I think a lot of it is the people who are in power think wealth is more monetary instead of generational.
Right.
When the wealth is spread around, that's when the country becomes powerful. You know, that's when the people inside the country becomes powerful, when you put that wealth into the generations.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, I think African seems to. I've looked at the way we behave. Like sometimes I will look at people. I just want to, assess their mind and, you know, try to understand why they think in a certain way. You know, well, I think Africans kind of have this sort of godlike nature.
Mm,
Somewhere inside of us. Like there's a God that exists in every one of us.
mm,
And it's not even a positive God, kind of, because we want to be worshipped.
mm,
We want everybody to bow down before us. So what Africans basically do is to keep everybody in a position where they are below you.
mm,
You understand? Like we want everybody to be below. So it's best that I am able to gather so much where I look down on everybody else, while everybody's looking up to me
mm,
up here, and I'm feeling so good about myself. you know. But I just don't feel. I think the real power is in being able to create a system that works for everybody.
mm, mm,
I used to tell my friend that it would be a great feeling, when every one of us are successful. If every one of us are successful, it's a great feeling for me.
Mhm.
Than when I'm the only successful person in our midst, then I'm forming the organ at the top and all that bullshit. Every one of us should be successful, and we have all of these things, hidden on our soil.
mm,
Everything we need is right here. If Africans don't travel out of Africa to actually borrow, like what Africans are always doing, Africans, if we learn to properly manage and explore the gifts that are hidden on our soil, we'll still be the richest in the world. African
absolutely.
countries will still be the richest in the world because we have everything. Come to manpower, we have the biggest human uh, uh, investments. Africans are so bright. We have one of the best brains all over the world. But
Mm,
everybody's running away because like Africa keeps swallowing or killing, their best men. You understand? We have so much natural resource. We have gold, we have diamonds, we have
Mhm.
oil, we have everything. We have natural grains. You don't have to put fertilizers on the ground for trees to grow here. But everything is growing naturally. We have sea, we have the sea. you know. So we really don't have to stress. But because we don't look inward, we look more outward.
mm,
We look more outward than inward because maybe we're not aware of who we are in the first place. We've lost a sense of self, self-awareness. So we lost our minds and we're just crazy everywhere and wants to sink everybody in the process. But we have to keep pushing as much as we can with whatever tool that we have positively to educate people and sell the ideology of the Africa that we all desire.
It's very interesting that you say that because I know that you say that a lot of us are looking outward rather than inward in the resources that we have. But what's been interesting for me to see on this side of the United States is how much Africans of the diaspora are so fascinated and interested in learning African history
mm,
and being connected with Africa. So I feel like maybe our duty in the future is to unite all of us as Africans and figure
Right.
out how we can educate ourselves, educate our children, and collaborate so that we can bring that wealth that already exists in Africa to ourselves. I think it'll make such a powerful statement. I think that even the youth now are showing us how social media can connect so many of us, but also introduce information that we may not have known. And SARS,
Mm.
I feel like may not have been as global unless we had, social media
Social media,
and the
right.
youth of Nigeria pushing that. Even, anyone in Nigeria that wanted to bring awareness. We know what's going on because of that. And I feel
Yeah,
like if we
right.
continue to make those connections and continue to have conversations as Africans on the continent and the diaspora, it can be such a powerful thing for the continent.
Yeah,
So I just feel like bridging that gap between us as Black and African people.
yeah, that's the ideology that I'm always talking. Like we have to keep selling the ideology of the Africa that we want. You know, not the
Definitely.
Africa that we are currently seeing. You know, because the Africa that we're currently seeing, it's a false image that is being projected to us.
That's
The false
true.
image. You know, it's not the Africa that I think a lot of us want. You know, because we are aware of who we are. A lot of people are becoming more awoken. You know, a lot of people are becoming more awoken, and so we know what we are capable of. If only we're able to maximize our potentials, you know, put to use, you know, putting religion aside, you know, I'm a Christian, you know, but I'm more of a spiritual Christian than a religious Christian. You understand? You know, so it has nothing to do with my faith. You know, I can't be praying and not be working. Praying and not working is religion, because they'll tell you just believe it will come. You know, and you're not doing anything, and that's the falsehood of part of the things that we've been taught here. You know, where people believe in, you know, we're all praying. Like I was talking with a religious friend of mine. He's a pastor, and I was telling him, but he kept saying that we should keep praying that God will help us. And I was like, Nigeria is 60 after independence, 60. So we all should die first. You know, but the truth is, what I know is God has helped us. If you believe in God, God has helped us, but we've not helped ourselves. He has helped us by giving us all the tools and resources that we need to fix ourselves. But He's not going to come down here and fix the roads. He won't come down and give us power. You know, He won't come down and build all the infrastructures that we need. He will come down and create a constitution for us. We are supposed to act. You know, so the religion will make us keep praying and believing without working, without the action. And I personally have a problem with that. You know, so I'm more of a spiritual Christian and a religious kind of person. Because I will tell you, while you pray, do what you have to do. You know, act, do what you have to do. If it's election, if you have to vote, go out there and vote. Get your voters card. It's one of the things that we're also trying to push currently. That while we're fighting to take away SARS, because SARS is just like a very minute section of the entire system. In fact, it's not even the problem. It's just a pinch of the problem. You know, the real deal is the system. You know, but being able to use SARS, or SARS is on the limelight now because it's supposed to be like a picture being projected that the change can come if we learn to use our power, which is our voice, our ability to stand up and make our decisions and act beyond just sitting back and waiting for somebody else from the Western world to come and fix our countries for us.
Definitely.
You know, we just passed the bill, the budget for 2021, and in the midst of the coronavirus and people, a lot of companies and people struggling to survive, you know, we're still having more reoccurrence expenditures, you know, on the budget that is being passed, you know, on very useless things, like really, really useless things, you know, including changing cars for senators every year. For what? You know, including changing certain, you know, cutting grasses and certain things that actually doesn't make any sense. You know, instead of, everybody should make sacrifices, because now you have increased taxes in Nigeria, you have electricity bill that is doubled, you have fuel price that is crazy right now. You know, why not cut down on expenditures on governance? Because you have, the cost of running governance in Nigeria is crazy. You know, why not cut down? You know, so SARS is just a small portion of the bigger picture. You understand? But
Mm-hmm.
if people are able to speak up, that a lot of people don't actually not expect or believe it would happen, then it's possible that if we learn to use our power, which is our voice, more of our voice,
Definitely.
then a lot more can happen for us.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Just a few more questions for you. How much time do you spend in the studio?
I've been okay for today. I'm trying to like break my everyday life for you. I really don't have like routine
Hmm.
for me because routines are
Mhm.
boring. Yeah, routines are boring. I can't deal with doing the same thing over and over again. But on my regular days, I sleep less. I don't. I'm not good at sleeping at all. At times I do 4 hours max, daily. So I could be up by 4 or 5, you know, then go into the studio on the inside the house, and sometimes have a long time to think and reflect on a couple of things, engage in some of my sketches and interpret some of my ideas, you know. Then by 6 a.m. max, I'm already at the studio.
Hmm.
And my regular days will literally, I've been at the studio from morning, and I solidly remember that I have an interview and I have to come inside. so, so most time when I step into the studios by 6, by 9:10, I'll take short break for breakfast and get back again. And most of the time work till it's dark.
Hmm.
What kind of music do you listen to?
uh, early, I used to listen to a lot of rap, not just every rap, conscious rap.
Hmm.
Like?
You know, I've currently fallen in love with Jay-Z,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Nice.
his recent album. His recent album is deep. It's deep. There's a lot of awakening messages,
Mm-hmm.
in his recent album. So I'm a crazy fan of Jay-Z. I'm a crazy fan of Lil Wayne.
Hmm.
Beyond his craziness, beyond the F and the B word that he uses a lot, are also hidden a lot of messages. So when I listen to music, I'm not just vibing to the sound. You know, I am so keen on hearing every bit of word,
Mm-hmm.
the artist is saying, because that is where a lot of time artists would hide certain things, you know, um, behind their craziness. So you would have to pay real attention, to have a glimpse of the real thing. So I'm always, my ears are deeply open to some of the things that Lil would have to say. So I listen to a lot of Jay-Z. Currently, my playlist regularly for some time now has been more of the recent album of Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
Less R&B,
Hmm.
less R&B. My wife is giving me too much love right now, so I don't want to deal with extra love outside. So so I'm more about developing my mental state than a lot of classicals. I do a lot of classicals. I do a lot of jazz music as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
You know, um, I'm a little bit very selective about Afrobeat is good, but I'm picky about some of the artists that I'm listening to, from the Afrobeats, the
Mm-hmm.
Nigerian thing. You understand? So I currently would I listen to a lot of Asha as
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
well. You know, she's fantastic. She's fantastic. I listen to a lot of Burna Boy, especially his recent album.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
His recent album is sound. So I listen to. There are times when I play it the entire day, just like I was talking. Henry, put on the generator. The power problem I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Oh, it's all
You
good.
know.
We're just gonna miss the audio.
Yeah, so
Um,
they're going to change power right now. They're changing over to generator in a matter of
Okay.
minutes.
We hear
Mm.
you. We can still hear
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
okay, so
So.
one last question. One last question. Um,
Mhm.
can you define your art with 3 words?
My art with 3 words. My art in 3 words is spiritual,
Hmm.
um, social impact, and self-confidence.
That's
Self-confidence, self-worth.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Would you mind giving our audience your social medias and how they can contact you and see your work?
Okay, I think I'm very open and accessible via all of my social media platforms. As busy as I can be, I often would have, I always want to go back to my DMs and check and talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because when I create, a lot of time, in fact, when I had my solo show last year, I had this talk with the curator because I know a lot of the things that happens here when you do exhibitions and you have the artist statement written somewhere at the entrance and a lot of information about the show and you have to read through it. And sometimes I go to shows and it's boring for me, you know. The reason is because I think exhibitions are supposed to be about experiences, So when I go to exhibitions, I want to have personal experiences or encounter with the pieces that I'm going there to see and not to read about whatever that is written there.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Because honestly, I'm a creative person. You're a creative person as well. When I go to exhibitions sometimes and I read what is written and look at the work, they
Different.
literally don't connect. It's
Yeah.
different. You understand? And I personally have problems with it. So I decided actually to I'll take out any form of text apart from I think I took out the titles as well. Apart from dimensions and they're basically dimension and year of production. You know, the reason is because I wanted people to come and tell me what you feel, tell me your experiences. Have I done a good job? Have I passed? Have I delivered the message I'm supposed to deliver? So that was that. So what I do a lot of time is, no matter how busy I am, I find in between times to make sure that I interact with everybody that is trying to communicate with me via any of my platforms.
Okay.
Like I will have lengthy discussions with you as long as I have the time and it relates to art or something positive about my goals or whatever I want to achieve. So I'm open on my social media platform on Instagram. I think almost on all my social media platforms is Art by Collins.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you do Art by Collins on Twitter, on Instagram, and on which other platform is available again? Okay, but for Facebook, it's my full name, Akporode Collins on Facebook. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
Perfect.
thank you so much, Collins, for being on our show today. We are so honored to have you. It's been incredible. Thank you so much for answering our questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see both of you. You know, I saw a lot more of your pictures last 2 years and last years, and I was like,
Yes.
well, I look forward to meeting this great guy that has,
Oh.
has formed this my sister. So I'm glad seeing the both of you together and
Thank
seeing
you.
that you both are on the same mission, same purpose. I think family works better when we all are, we are tuned towards achieving same goal, for the
Definitely.
betterment of everybody. So I'm really happy for the both of you.
Thank you so
Thank you. Thank
much.
you.
Yeah,
All right.
thank
All
you.
right.
Take care.
Take care.
So we'll actually share this with you when we post it. So we'll tag you.
Okay. And
Okay.
I will share on my platforms as well. Thank you very
Thank
much
you
for
so
having
much.
me.
That'll be
All right,
wonderful.
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
Take
you.
care.
Yeah.